Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to have a special guest speaker today. Carrie has come to speak with us on manifesting the life you want, the life you love, the life you desire, however you want to put it. And Carrie and I got to meet when I was visiting in South Africa. She is a diamond with Young Living and has been using oils for many more years than me. Very experienced and very tied into emotional uses of oils, which is her like powerhouse strength. So I'm really excited to have her today. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Carrie.
Thank you, Allie. Now everybody's hearing me. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so happy for all of you in South Africa with all of your recent rank ups, and you guys are just doing a fabulous job, and it was such a blessing and so refreshing to my heart to come and meet some of you in Cape Town and some of you in Joburg. It was just a lifetime experience for me, a lifetime high. So for those of you that don't know my story, I was first introduced to oils back in 2007. In the mid-1990s, I gave birth to a child who came out of me very messed up. And I spent the next 6 years trying to keep her alive, living in and out of hospitals. She was medically fragile. And in the end, I was forced to watch her starve to death because the doctors made an ethical decision that her life was not worth another surgery. At that time, I really thought nothing worse could happen to me. And I soon found out that yes, indeed, worse things could happen, because not only did I lose my daughter, but I had to move out of my house because we got mold, and I lost my health. We were away in the hospital so much. One of the last marathon hospital visits, we got mold in the house, and that just was like the last straw for me with my health. Now, for 6 years of her life, I had been looking for help from other people and not finding it. And if you know very much about Western medicine, there is a lot of fear, doom, gloom, paralysis, because the doctors tell you the worst things and they don't know very much about natural medicine. So when I would ask questions, they would say, well, it might be helpful, but we don't really know. And because my daughter was so fragile, I was always afraid to make other decisions than what the doctors said to do. So I want you to just kind of keep that in mind. I spent another almost 6 years after my daughter passed away studying mold and trying to regain my health. And I would ask everybody for 10 years, did they know anything about essential oils? Because I was reading about them in the Bible, and it says that the elders are supposed to anoint with oils and pray for the sick, and the sick are to recover. So I knew there had to be something in that, or it wouldn't be written in the Bible. But very few people knew anything about it. Until I, kept asking, and finally a friend was arranging a health expo, and she had heard that if you were going to do essential oils, you better do Young Living because they're the best. And this particular friend was all about having the best. She wore Birkenstocks because she felt like Birkenstocks were the best shoes ever. And so she really didn't know much about healing. She just knew that she wanted the best representation for her health expo there. So she found somebody that was going to teach a healing oils to the Bible class, and then she sent me that information. Well, I got that information and I looked at where this class was going to be, and it was 3 hours from where I lived. And I said, there's no way I can go 3 hours and be okay, because I had lost so much life energy. Just leaving my home for a day of shopping would mean 3 to 4 days of recovery time where I pretty much hung out on the couch most of the time. So I contacted that person. I told her my whole sob story, and I said, you know, I'm very interested. Would you come to my house and teach me? She said, okay, where do you live? What day? Invite a few friends, and I'll come over. So she did. She came over to my house. I had never had a massage before in my life. I remember her saying on the phone, I'm learning to do this thing. I don't know if it'll help you, but I'm willing to do this thing for you. And so I said, sure. I responded to the kindness in her voice. So she came to my house with a massage table and a whole bunch of stuff. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into now? And she gave me a raindrop technique and then taught a Healing Oils the Bible class, which was probably the longest class on the planet because it took about 3.5 hours. But during that time, I had a lot of essential oils on me. And that night I slept like a baby and I woke up happy for the first time in 10 years. I'll never forget waking up happy for the first time in 10 years. Now, that was in 2007. So here we are, 2020, and my life will never be the same again. So it's been amazing and so completely transformational in so many ways. My life, I feel like I've been given a new life, and yet there's still more to learn and more to do, and always room for growth. So I want to share with you guys where I went from being sick and hardly being able to get off the couch to being able to travel the world and teach. I've taught Raindrop and VitaFlex in Australia, Russia, Europe, and they're in South Africa, and all over the US primarily. In 2008, I attended what's called a care intensive, where I learned more about what had happened to me and more about what I had been missing. And basically, a care intensive, you can go to raindroptraining.com and sign up for the article archives. And there's something on there that's called a CCI Final, which is an excellent self-study course in applied aromatherapy. Even if you don't take any of those classes, if you download that final exam and try to answer a few of those questions every day, you'll be amazed at how much information you will begin to understand and have at your fingertips. So I went to that care and I came back and I started giving people Raindrop. Now, at that time, I had no intention of having a business. I still had 3 healthy children at home. My bills were paid for. You know, we didn't make a lot of money, but I was content to be comfortable and to be able to stay home and take care of my children. So I really didn't have a vision for much beyond that until 2010. So 2008, I went to a care intensive. I came home, that was in the fall, and I bought a massage table and I started telling people, I'm learning to do this thing. I don't know if it'll help you, but I need people to practice on. So come over and I'll do this thing for you. and my friends did. And then they had amazing results. And so when they were talking to other people, they would be like, wow, you've got that going on? Well, I don't know if this will help you, but my friend is learning to do this thing. You need to go see her. And so they would send people to me. I'd put them on my massage table. I'd give them a raindrop and things would happen. And so then they would be like, well, okay, I need more of this. How do I get more oils? So I would tell them, okay, you go to youngliving.com and you put your information in there and you buy, at that time it was an everyday oils kit. And we got a diffuser coupon. And half the time people didn't remember to even redeem their diffuser coupon. So it's a much better system now to have the oils with the diffuser at the same time. But I began telling people that, and they would buy their kits and get their oils. And then my enroller and sponsor was talking to her one day, and she said, okay, Carrie, you got to stop doing that. This is how you need to do things. And she said to me, you need to be up front and tell people, you buy an everyday oils kit and I will give you a free raindrop. Then you say, you get on Essential Rewards and buy the raindrop technique kit for yourself. And then I will come to your home and I will teach you how to do it. Bring a friend, family member, we'll do a few raindrops. So that's what I did. And before I knew it, I was a silver. So I went from just using the oils for myself to then a few friends finding and saying, well, I want to try that. Well, I want to try that. I would show them the EODR and they would look things up and make a list, and then they would buy those oils. So in 2010, I became a silver. Now, you might say that's a long time. It is a long time because I went from I couldn't get off the couch to, oh, wow, I can stand up and actually stay focused a full hour giving a raindrop to somebody. That was a process for me because at the time I was given my first raindrop, I couldn't stay on my feet and focused and follow directions for anything. So it was miraculous to me to be able to pay that gift forward to anybody, whether I got compensation for it or not, because I felt like I had been given my life back. So why wouldn't I offer that to somebody else? So it was really, you know, almost 2 full years from the time I had my first care intensive to when I became a, well, I guess a little over a year, not quite 2 years before I became a silver. And at the time I became a silver, that was really when I decided that I needed to seriously look at this as a business, because Gary Young, I got a trip to St. Mary's, Idaho. And if y'all haven't looked up like pictures at that farm, has everybody looked up all the pictures at each farm? If not, you really should. I mean, I think they're easy to find now on Flickr and on the Seed to Seal website. You can find those pictures. But actually being at St. Mary's, walking that land and being in the distillery while they were distilling lemon balm was another life-changing moment. I will never forget it. It was so incredibly uplifting. I felt like I was in heaven, like I had already died and gone to heaven. Like life could not get any better. And then Gary challenged us. He challenged us to write down how many people we could think of having in our Young Living organization. Have you guys done that? Have you all written down how many people you want in your Young Living organization? Show of hands, yes, no's, maybe.
I think we have a lot on who are just oil users here too.
Okay,
so it's really like a combination in this group here.
Okay, so write that down. Even if you're just an oil user, think of it in terms of how many people do you think need these oils? Like, do you like lemon? Do you like having Thieves household cleaner or Thieves oil? Don't you think like a lot of other people might like that too? I had just a beautiful experience one time with just a couple drops of Thieves oil helping a young man get over strep throat. And all he did was put a few drops on his throat directly. And like the next morning, he was 100% better. And I'm like, that is so remarkable. That happened early on in my journey with a neighbor boy who had stopped by for cookies. And anyway, so back to Gary Young. Gary was on a mission to get oils in every home. And he sat there with, I think there were about 178 people, and said, how many people do you think you can help? How many people do you want to help? And then he looked at our papers because he could see where we were writing, and he said, y'all aren't thinking big enough. And later we had many conversations about populations of towns, but this is what he did. He said, I want you guys to cross that number that you wrote out and double it. Now double that number again. And I remember writing 200 because at the time I thought, wow, I have 85 members right now and I'm pretty busy answering questions all the time. With 85 people asking you questions, you can get pretty busy. So I'm thinking, well, 200 is probably the max. and so finally I ended up writing, no, I want 1,000. I want 1,000 people in my organization who have the faith to anoint with oils. I wrote that down, and then I watched that come to pass. And I didn't think a whole lot about that really big goal until it was close to being reality, and I kind of just went about my business of still giving everybody a raindrop, answering people's questions, showing them the information from the EODR. But the conversations that came from that one meeting where Gary really challenged our thinking continued to go, because what we began talking about is the population of your town, and then the fact, okay, if you were going to have a wedding and invite everybody from the bride side and the groom side, how many people do you think would like a wedding invitation? So we began to kind of play these games in our head of people that we knew and people who would want to have that experience. And then we began to say, wow, okay, these oils changed my life. I'm quite certain they would change other people's lives. And pretty much everywhere you go, somebody's complaining about something that we have an oil for, right? So it's almost so natural to want to help those people. But you have to get out of your comfort zone and your small box thinking. And this month, our organization closed at over 260,000 members, over 261,000 members. We had over 18,000 new members just last month. Now, that is incredible. It's incredible. And did I do that? No, I don't take credit for that at all. I was simply faithful to share with the next person who God brought in front of me, and the next person that said, hey, would you help my friend? Hey, I've got this friend and I have no idea how to help her. Do you have any information that might help her? I was merely consistent with being willing to stop whatever I was doing and look up information. I bought all the books. I invested in having resources so that I could help that next person who asked me for help. Now, I want you guys to write down this saying. Some of you might have already heard it before. It's not necessarily new. And it's a guy named T. Harv Eker. He's got the book, The Millionaire Mind, I think is the name of his book. He said, no thought lives in your head rent-free. I'll say it again. No thought lives in your head rent-free. Every thought you have is either costing you money or making you money. You should write that down because it's true. Our thoughts are what interfere with our abilities more than anything else. So we need to put our thoughts to work. Now, how do we do this? We have to have goals. And many of us just let life happen to us. So I want to back up just a little bit. Many years ago, when my daughter was first born, I lived the first 6 weeks of her life in a hospital, and somebody that happened to know about our situation said, hey, there's this hospitality house. It's really for single soldiers, because my husband was military, I was in the military, and we were stationed in Germany at the time. And so the hospital that my daughter was born in was a good 2 hours away from where I lived. And so there was this ministry that had a house that they basically did events on the weekends for the single soldiers. And so the house was empty most of the time. So they let me stay there off and on when I couldn't stay in the hospital because of the way my daughter was in like a special NICU unit for part of the time. And so when they didn't have space for me in one of the rooms, then I would have to stay somewhere else. So during that time, I just thought, wow, this is such a blessing for these people to offer me a room to stay, because I didn't have any extra money. You know, I certainly didn't have a plan, you know, a budget planned to need a hotel room. And I was having to pay childcare for my friends to watch my healthy children. So it was such a blessing to be able to stay there. Well, then when I left Germany, I ended up needing to stay in a Ronald McDonald house for 4 months while my healthy children stayed with my parents. And that experience just really birthed in me a desire to be able to practice hospitality for people who are, you know, in similar circumstances for whatever reason, be it a job loss, job change, you know, just people that are moving cross country or, you know, traveling to visit other family, whatever the situation. It just really gave me that desire to be able to open my home and have a nice space to give them a nice meal, because when you're in crisis, often, you know, your body doesn't digest well because you're so nervous about the situation. And then you end up eating bad food or junk food or, you know, hospital food or things out of the machines, you know, which is usually really bad for you, you know, chocolates and candies and chips and that sort of thing. So it meant a lot to me for people to, you know, bring me a real meal when I was in the hospital that they had cooked from home. And so it was in the back of my mind as my Young Living business grew that I wanted to have a house big enough to offer hospitality to people. And then once I started doing Raindrops and I became an instructor, we were teaching a lot out of hotel rooms, and many of the hotels would complain about the essential oils being so strong in the hotel room. Usually the staff was fine. It would be guests who were highly toxic and couldn't figure out what those smells were that would complain. So I thought, wouldn't it be a lot better to be able to teach these trainings in places where they wouldn't mind about the smells, and where we could control the food and have healthier food options for people? Because here we are teaching people how to use these oils for health and wellness, and then when we taught in hotels, frequently everybody would like make mad dashes for fast food in order to get back for the next class. And I'm like, that is just counterproductive. You know, I don't want people going out and having McDonald's French fries when I'm trying to do something good for their body. So I had written down, which is another key thing. Don't type your goals. It's not the same. That reticular activation system in your brain needs you to handwrite your goals. So I hand wrote that I wanted a house that would have 2 living rooms, a guest room, an office, and lo and behold, my Young Living checks grew and I was able to purchase that house. And then I decided I really would like to have a swimming pool. I want to be able to do a few other things for my guests. And so now I've done this, I don't know, 5 times with different homes where I have handwritten down exactly what I want in my house. And then that has come to pass. Now, that's what we call manifestation. When you set the goal and you get specific, but this is a key thing, 2 key things. Your goals need to be altruistic. Does everybody know the definition of altruistic? If not, look it up and ponder that. I'm still pondering it because you can think you know something, and then the more you use these oils, your mindset about that thing can grow. So your goals need to be altruistic. God or the universe doesn't really care so much that you have something fancy that's only for personal use. It's like it doesn't really matter in the eternal scheme of things. But when your goals are because you want to bless other people and help other people, there's this energy and force that cannot be contained that makes those things flow and come to be. So when you're writing about your goals, it's not bad to want something nice. A lot of people I have met have serious problems with feeling worthy of a good thing. So if that person is you, you need to write down and get a hold of jasmine. Can you guys get jasmine? Is jasmine in the South Africa product guide?
They have joy, which has jasmine in it.
Okay, yeah, so you can use your joy. But there's 2 places. You put that joy up here, you put it over your heart, 3 places that I like to put it actually. And then there's a place right at the top of the pubic bone, so below your belly button. You put the jasmine or the joy right there. And you proclaim you are worthy. So it's also important with this, you write it down, you've thought about the altruistic aspect of what it is. But years ago, this is a story that happened. You let it go, exactly the steps of how it is to happen. And so my mentor, one of them is Dr. David Stewart, who, created the CARE program, raindroptraining.com. And we were on a conference call with him one time, and he said this to us, which us meaning other instructors. He said to us, it's important that you pray specifically, but let go of the outcome. So for 2 weeks, I was thinking, well, how can you do that? It's like you're supposed to write down the goal, you write down your vision, and then you make the action plan, right? You got to go step by step, and it has to be, you're going to call this person and this person and this person. You're going to do this to this person. You're going to tell this person to do this, very specific actions, right? That's how the world would tell you to do this, right? But here Dr. Stewart is saying, no, you like be specific, but let go of the how. So for 2 weeks, I was just trying to wrap my brain about this. I'm like, no, that, everything else I've done, if you're going to make a quilt, you got to get the fabrics, you got to have your pattern, you got to cut the fabric out, you got to sew it together just right. There are specific steps. That quilt just does not make itself, So I'm sitting here thinking, what is he talking about? When I would leave my house, I would pray. I would say, Lord, protect my home, protect my animals, protect my children. Send your angels to protect my family. And then one day I'm standing at my kitchen sink and I look out, and right after we'd moved into this house, this big tree just across the street had been killed in an ice storm. And the people had come and cut off the top of the tree to clear up all the branches and take those away, but they had left this stump really high. So when this truck pulled up, I thought, oh, they're going to cut down and take care of this stump. But no, this man pulled out a tent awning and a chainsaw, and he started carving, and he carved an angel out of that tree trunk. And I just still get chills sharing this story because there was my answer. That angel looked at my house. So God had brought this angel to watch over my house. And that was my physical manifestation of that prayer and letting go of the outcome. So while we definitely have, our IPAs, those income producing activities, you need to know that if you have altruistic goals, there's always going to be more help to make that happen than you can visibly see. And I think that's so important right now, especially because we've had so many of our freedoms seemingly stripped away from us right now with this whole crazy lockdown stuff. Okay, next I want to tell you guys a little story about Marcela Von Harding. Do you guys know who Marcela is? She's been with Young Living forever and knew Mary before it was Mary and Gary. And Marcela told us one time at a meeting, she said, if you don't have any passion, then you need to find somebody that does and hang on to them until you got it. and I've never forgotten her telling that, because she said, because passion is contagious and you hang on long enough, you'll get some for you. So you got to have some passion. And sometimes that passion can kind of knock a person backwards or sideways a little bit, but don't be dissuaded. Your passion matters. One thing I had mentioned to Allie that I really want to encourage all of the ladies in here with is that in Young Living, there is no glass ceiling, and y'all need to talk about what that means, because in so many corporate places and so many just mindsets, women have this idea that they're not worth making more, or there is a literal glass ceiling to what a woman can earn because she's competing with a man. And it's so like old fashioned, but it's true in the workplace when you look at salaries. And we need to be telling the men out there that in Young Living, there is no glass ceiling either, because there are a lot of men who reach the age of 40, 45, and they're at the top. They're at the top and rapidly approaching the time that they're going to get fired and replaced by two young pups just out of college. So we need to not be afraid to tell men about the fact that in Young Living, you can actually earn according to what you put into it. And nobody stops you just because you've reached a certain pay grade. I forget the name of the thing, but a few years back, I used to compare like the ranks in Young Living's pay to different corporate positions that are out there, because they do these, average salaries of this job that's, the person's been in for XYZ years would be, this much money. And it was shocking to me when I began to make more than many people who I felt like, oh my goodness, they have so much more education than I do. They've got a PhD in XYZ and they've got this college degree plus all these certifications. And yet, guess who's making a higher paycheck? And guess who's really making a higher paycheck now, a few years later? That's right here. And only because of Young Living's comp plan. It's incredible and amazing. And I tell you this for several reasons, because I want you to think about it, and I want you to, put it into terms with the people that you know in your circles. And I want you to be able to boldly pull out the income disclosure statement and say, no, I know this person, and she's a diamond with a lot of diamonds and a lot of people in her group, and her paycheck is like this. It's right there in the income disclosure statement. You don't have to give exact numbers, but they can easily then compare and be like, oh, well, that's respectable. It's quite respectable. So there's no glass ceiling with this business. You really do have an ability to get back out of it way more than what you put into it. Now with that, I'll tell you another story. I remember my upline telling me that she had asked Marcela Von Harding how much money she made a month. And I was like flabbergasted, because I'm like, oh, you had the audacity and the nerve to ask her what she made? Because this was in the days before there was an IDS, okay? So if you didn't ask, you didn't know. So I'll never forget her telling me, Marcela's check is like over $84,000 a month. Now, this was way back. I have no idea what Marcela's checks are now, but I remember that thought, what it did to my brain. It was like, oh, what? She makes that much money in 1 month? And I'm like, well, I've met her and she's like a pretty normal person. She's a mom, and, she had a daughter with serious health problems who she totally helped recover with health and nutrition and then oils. And, she's a real person. So if she can do that, then I could probably do that. And then I thought, I have no idea how, but I think I could do that. I wouldn't mind that much money. So I tell you that because your teacher's ceiling is your floor. Because every single one of you have the advantage of all of the teachers in Young Living who give you so many resources and so much understanding and so much free teaching. That means that every single one of you really can go beyond what those of us who have already been in Young Living a long time have done. You can do it even better because you have a better comp plan now. And I've gone through just one big, well, actually, I've gone through two comp plan changes because when I started building the business, there was a bonus that went away for Ningxia Red. But it didn't really affect me because my group was so small at the time. And so anyway, just to say, you guys have this amazing platform from which you can do so many amazing, beautiful things for the people around you and the people on the globe that you can reach. But to do that, you've got to take control of your thoughts and your emotions. Because if you think you can't help somebody, then you're right, you can't. But if you think you can, you can. Are they all going to listen and all going to do what you say? No. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you have sown a good seed by having the willingness to help them. And you have not given somebody a stone when they asked you for bread. And that's a very important principle to me, because I have watched a lot of people who I think have lost business ability because they gave somebody a stone when they asked for bread. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, they didn't take the time to really help the person figure out the answer to their question. In this business, that's generally what happens. Or somebody gets offended and quits talking to the other person. And instead of figuring out why they quit talking to that person, they just let the relationship fall apart. I've had to say a lot of hard things to people, and that's not always easy, but I would say it's a success principle. And a lot of people that I have met who are very successful don't hesitate to tell another person the truth about a situation if they're asked. As you know, difficult as that might be. And I'm a person who does not like confrontation. But if you ask me for honest help and I find out that you're drinking diet soda every day, I'm going to tell you that you're killing your liver and your pancreas. I'm not going to hold back. If you're telling me that you've got major hormone problems and I walk into your house and you have a bazillion endocrine disrupting chemicals in your house, I'm going to tell you that you're poisoning yourself and causing your hormone problems. Is that easy to tell somebody? No, but is it the truth? Yes. And is it going to help them? Yes, if they listen. So be bold, people. Be passionate. Help your friends and family. And one more thing before I quit talking. People will respond when they know that you care.
It's 9 o'clock, Enzo.
And a lot of times I have observed people in our business where they're closed to giving the information that this other person really needs. And so the relationship goes nowhere. But when your heart is really truly open to practicing agape love towards the other person, they feel that before you ever say a word to them. So when you're writing those goals, if they're truly altruistic, you're going to have that open-heartedness to share the blessings that have been sown into you with them. Okay, is that some clarity?
I'd love for you to talk about some oil usage for helping with manifestation. So like,
Whoa. Yes.
Whatever they want to manifest.
Yeah, so the more negative emotions you have inside you, then the less you're going to be able to manifest what you want. Because when you're holding on to something negative, that's a spiritual lesson that has not been learned yet. So you're going to go around that mountain again. What that means is that God's going to bring people with that same junk right into your sphere. And you're going to look and you'll be like, I don't like that. We'll deal with it in you, and then you won't have to deal with it in them with a clashing effect. So the best things are to use your resources. Get as many oils as you possibly can. Get the entire collection. You want to be able to do all the heart oils. I am a heart person because I feel like that's really so much of why we're not where we need to be, is because we hold on to things in our heart that need to go. So releasing emotional patterns with essential oils, the Blue Book, that's like my Bible for figuring out affirmations and oils on alarm points, which is, an alarm point is where your body stores a negative emotion. It can be anywhere. Some of the things that I do every day are cistus. Cistus is my oil. I put that over my heart because it's my oil that keeps me from bleeding out. And it literally is an anti-hemorrhagic physically. It's very cleansing to the blood and good for the blood. But for me, cistus helps me be compassionate and caring without taking on the other person's burdens upon myself. And forgiveness over the heart. I would say forgiveness is something that I still use regularly because there have been a lot of people who have betrayed me or harmed me in my past. And I've had to forgive my daughter's doctors for the negative things they spoke over her and over me, and the information that wasn't totally honest. That, you know, every so often I'll be teaching a class on the emotions, and God will bring one of the doctors or a nurse to my mind. And I'll have to be like, oh my goodness, okay, I forgive them. I forgive them. And I'll put forgiveness right over my heart. And I say, and I teach people to walk other people through the steps of forgiveness, because a lot of people do not know how to forgive, even when they're conscious that there is somebody they need to forgive. So I like to teach people to say, I forgive others, or if it's a specific person, you can say, I forgive that specific person. I allow them to forgive me, which is very important, because often we're the ones not forgiving ourselves for our part. And a lot of people suffer from guilt, thinking, well, I'm the one that did this wrong, and they don't forgive themselves. So we have to forgive ourselves, forgive the other people, allow the other people to forgive us, and then we need to turn it to good. And the way you turn it all to good is by proclaiming, I see the lesson. And this is where faith comes in, because when some bad crap has happened to you, it's not pretty, and you may not be able to see a lesson in that right now, but it's important to state that you choose to see the lesson and that you choose gratitude. No two emotions can occupy the heart at the same time. So when we're conscious of what's going on and what we're feeling, we can take the thoughts captive and shift the way we're emoting, which is energy in motion, to a positive. So when I woke up happy for the first time after 10 years, this was such a puzzle to me, because I thought, how could I have lost happy? But I lost happy when they took my little girl away right after she was born. I knew she was messed up, and then they wouldn't tell me anything about her condition for 2 full days. So I never got that oxytocin rush and endorphin rush post-birth that, you know, calms you down after the birth. I didn't get that because they took her away. So I was thrown into postpartum depression. Now, If you had asked me if I was depressed, I would have said no, because I had a strong faith. But when I woke up happy, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not felt happy. So absolutely I was depressed. And that's like the craziest thing. But when your cell has been vibrating at that specific negative frequency for so long, you can't get there by yourself to the other positive emotion. But our essential oils literally unlock that junk in the cell and help the body move it out. So I've seen the most remarkable things where people have grown skin tags and tumors and moles on these places where the body has stored something negative. So when it comes to manifestation, the cleaner you can get your heart, the more you are going to be able to see your goals and visions come to fruition. Other people around, we're all like walking radios. We're always sending off vibrations that either attract or repel. We're constantly sending and receiving. And if you want to attract good things, that's what you need to be sending out, is good things. People need to feel those good things. And when they feel that, then guess what happens? The door gets opened for you, because you made that person have some hope, or that person said, I like the way this person makes me feel. I used to have people that would want to come to my home because they would say, your home is one of the most peaceful places that I've ever been. And I'd be like, wow, you know, I'm just minding my own business, washing the dishes sometimes, leaving them in the sink sometimes. I don't always do the dishes. I try. but it's what they feel from being around me that makes them want to be there. So you want to manifest good things, clean up your heart.
I love that. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. Does anyone else have any questions for Carrie?
Energy doesn't lie.
I'm just reading that.
I love that.
Absolutely. And this doesn't, you know, this applies to all aspects of your life, right? Not just your business, but your relationships with your friends and your loved ones. I think it's huge, right? We can't get that from our spouse, which we cannot give to our spouse. I see that happen to me at times when I'm frustrated. And I push that frustration towards the person that I should be pulling in immediately. Any other books on oils and emotions? I just got a question on that. Oh,
Shelly's saying, can we do it?
I saw that. I don't know if we have time, but why don't we first answer the question about the books? And then if someone wants to stay on, and you can do like an emotional release.
Oh yeah, I did. I didn't mention Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die, Carol Truman. That book is so outstanding for explaining the process of how the body stores emotions, and then has a wonderful script and gives you positive words to replace the negative words with. That book changed my life so much, because when I was little, I feel like I did not get a good emotional vocabulary. I lived in a house full of cowboy brothers, and I mean, there weren't any girls to talk things through with. It was suck it up, drive on, you just deal with it and get on with things. And that was not healthy. So Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die was just amazing to have that validation that there's so many subtle emotions, and a lot of things we think might be just personality, but they're actually, that person has this negative emotion. They need help giving that up. It's not their personality. it's a negative emotion stored there, or a lot of them. So I also use Louise Hay's Heal Your Body. If you don't have those books, I highly recommend you invest in all of them and really read Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. You know, because of the time, I would like to tell you guys, one of the ways that I use Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die is I type the script for the person, like I have it in a Word document. So if somebody comes to my house or talks to me online about what's going on, I will ask them if they have that book. And if they don't, then I will find the positive words to replace the negatives that they've just shared with me, and I'll send that to them. Or I will, if they're at my house, I'll print it off and give it to them as their homework. And it's just a lovely way to help them control their thoughts and correct the wrong thoughts that they've stored for so long.
Did you want to do a quick emotional release for anyone who wants to hang on? It's pretty powerful. I know Shelley loves it.
We could certainly, if everybody has their oils and they want to do, I think the most powerful thing we do is I don't have those sitting in front of me, but if you've got any tree oil, you can do it. And I have frankincense and cedarwood. There we go. Everybody got a tree oil? Give everybody a second. Yes. So there's one technique that I shared while I was there in South Africa that doesn't take too long, but it's so powerful and so good. If you have copaiba, it's the best to use along with your tree oil. I should have said that when I said grab a tree oil. So my favorite oil to do this with is actually Idaho blue spruce, but there was a season where we couldn't get Idaho blue spruce, and I've been taught to use what we have and pray. So I found frankincense, cedarwood, the Northern Lights black spruce, or white fir, basically any tree oil. You could even do it with pine. I haven't. Pine has such a distinctive smell. It's a little bit different. But if I was in a pinch, I would use it along with copaiba. So what you want to do is take your copaiba first, put it in your hand. I'm just going to use frankincense for both of these for myself. Put it in one hand, and then take your index finger of the other hand and rub it along the occiput. So right where that bony ridge at the top of your neck is. There's so many emotions that can be stored right there. And then you want to put some right in the center of your forehead. Now, I'm going to throw something else in here. If people have a calcified pineal gland, they won't feel very spiritual. So if you're that person, you don't feel very spiritual, here's what else you can do. You can take frankincense or cedarwood, put it on your thumb, and put it on the roof of your mouth. Just like as a kid sucking his thumb, put it right up there. It doesn't take very long, and then the body will just suck it right up where it needs to go. Then you're going to put a little bit more over your forehead, and then you're going to put some over your heart.
Carrie, which one are we putting more on over our heart?
The frankincense
Okay.
or a tree oil. I've got
Copaiba?
You can use copaiba too, but I like to use a different tree oil over my heart. What do you have? Joy? You could even do joy over your heart. And as I was putting these oils on, what came to mind is something that I learned from a book I read about Mother Teresa that makes just an incredible affirmation. So take your left hand and put it over your heart. Once you've got your oils on, take your right hand and put it over your forehead. And then what you say is, I connect my mind with my heart. Then I want you to do a big breath in to the count of 4, and then hold, and then exhale through your mouth to the count of 4. Now inhale, hold, exhale through your mouth to the count of 4. Inhale, exhale. I connect my mind to my heart. And then what I would like to just pray over everyone. Lord, help us all to see you in the people around us.
I think that's the perfect way to end. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Carrie, for your time. Really
Thank you.